Before the show starts, again, just like to say a big thank you to the sponsors, Air Canada Cargo, ATC Aviation, Bombelli, Cool Dolly and Cool Storage Solution, Etihad Cargo, and Sarco Airport Equipment. Thank you all so much. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, colleagues and listeners, here we are at the Pharma Digital event, and kicking us off, three great guests. So I'll just introduce them one by one at the moment. So firstly, we have Christelle Laot. I hope that's right, Christelle.
It is. Thank you, Chris.
Good. Thank heavens for that. And Christine is the Technical Fellow for Specialty Services FedEx, and she's currently with us in Memphis. So great. Thank you very much, Christelle. Then we've got Roger Samways, who's Vice President of Cargo Commercial for American Airlines, and he's coming from Dallas.
Chris, sunny Dallas.
Sunny Dallas. Yeah, lucky man. And also in sunny Dallas, we've got Milton de la Paz, who's the Vice President, Airline Relations and Cargo Business, also in Dallas. So Milton, Roger and Christelle, thank you so much, all of you, for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Right, guys. Now, to start with, obviously, we've got some good news now at last, not just in the industry, but globally with the announcements of the 2, 3, 4, I think there's actually 6 that are going through limited testing now, vaccines. So that's great news. We've all seen how the immediate rebound in the stock markets and also in people's ideas of whether or not and when they'd be able to have holidays, etc. So at least there's something solid and positive for people to grab hold of. So if I may, what I would just like to ask each of you in turn is, where are you at the moment with regards to appreciation of the logistics that's going to be involved with these vaccines as and when they come on board? So I'll open that up to any of you. So who would like to start? Very good. So ladies first, Christelle. Sorry? This is a great one. This is like not wanting to dance when you meet on the street. So who'd like to go first?
I'll go first, Chris.
Roger. Okay.
Oh, we're both fighting over it, Christelle. Go on. No,
ladies first.
Ladies first, Christelle. Come on. I feel bad now.
This is going down well. This is great. Come on, Christelle.
Well, at FedEx Express, we have been preparing for months for the vaccine distribution. So we feel that as of now, we have looked at all kinds of scenarios. We have done some tests within our network. We have had many internal meetings. Everyone is prepared, waiting for the regulators to authorize the vaccines. And then we will be moving it for sure.
Brilliant. Okay, right. So obviously with these vaccines coming on board now, you've seen lots of press where they're saying, at last, fantastic, light at the end of the tunnel. And then all of a sudden you've got the doom merchants who say, yes, but logistics won't be ready and there's no coordination. So what's your uptake on that, Roger?
Yeah, we've been, believe it or not, Chris, we've been moving vaccines and pharmaceuticals across our network since the 1940s. And we've had a dedicated product since 2009. So similar to Christelle, we've got plans in place. We've got really good processes in place. The piece that's unknown at the moment is some of the details associated with this specific vaccine movement. So volumes, origins and destinations and so forth. That's really the news that we're waiting for. But as far as actually having the processes and the structure in place, we're in a really good spot.
Okay, brilliant. And Milton, from your perspective, from the airport side?
Yes, thank you, Chris. From the airport side, we're looking to see how we can play a collaborative and supportive role to all the stakeholders across the supply chain. We think that being centrally located in the US, our geography is good for a distribution base. And we've been working collaboratively with CBP and federal agencies at the airport to see how we can facilitate and expedite shipments through the airport. We don't operate cargo businesses, as you know, as an airport authority, but we want to support all the stakeholders across the supply chain. We have joined pharma.aero to be to sit at the table in these discussions, and we're going to work with all our airlines and logistics players to see how we can support them again, and make sure that if DFW is chosen as a logistics center, that we can remove all obstacles that we can as an airport, and make this an efficient and safe place to ship cargo.
Okay, very good. Now, it's you mentioned there Pharma.aero. They did a survey with IATA, and the response, as you're probably aware, came back not as positive as one would imagine. So with regards to the ecosystem there in Dallas, is the community involved in assessing the capability, looking at any bottlenecks from access and infrastructure, you know, from the storage capability? Is that part of the overall viewpoint from the airport?
Yes, yes. To follow up on that, Pharma.aero has partnered with Tiaka, and they have, as you know, this Sunrays project, and they're looking at they're assessing the capabilities across airports and again across the supply chain in general. And we have a CEIV pharma community at DFW Airport, so we have reverted back to each one of those members to make sure that their capabilities are there and they can support the logistics process at DFW. And we're looking at storage capability, capacity, and other things like that. So we are going back to the community. We're working closely with them. We're communicating, and we've been waiting to see what's going to develop in terms of a vaccine. And like you noted, there's two that are coming up pretty soon. So again, we just want to play a supportive role and make sure that we can help them in their business.
Yeah, and apologies there. I mentioned IATA instead of Tiaka, so I'm apologising to Glyn Hughes in advance of him taking the position. So do apologise there. Now, Christelle, we've had mention there about CEIV. Now, as far as FedEx is concerned, and whether or not it's GDP or CEIV, how positive has the pursuit of either accreditation been within your organisation?
Well, first of all, you need to understand that FedEx is an integrator. We have custodial control of the shipments. Therefore, we have some type of advantage, I think, over the freight forwarders, the airports, the ground handlers, who have to work together with different entities. Yeah. On our side, the communication is facilitated by that process, right? Now, we are not today certified for good distribution practices. You need to understand that good distribution practices are not required for transportation providers. They were drafted with the distribution landscape in mind. Now, it doesn't mean that we do not look at it very carefully. Obviously, we are looking at the latest developments around good distribution practices, and we try to exceed the standards whenever we can.
Very good, and that's good to clarify it, because that's something that lots of people have been misrepresented and misunderstood with regards to whether or not somebody is certified to GDP or whether or not they practice it or take it into consideration and go above that. Roger, what's your take up?
Can I just tag on? Yeah, look, we see merits in both, Chris, but we do believe that CEIV is more preferred. Ultimately, we think that the requirements contained in CEIV provide more stringent requirements and guidance for us, for carriers like us, for participants like us within the supply chain. They talk about things like temporary storage and transportation of pharma and the specific requirements associated with that. GDP tends to be a bit more Eurocentric. We actually find that CEIV is more prescriptive in terms of laying out, how to actually handle shipments, for example, on the ramp. And so that's really, really useful for us. And I think, the overarching, goal of accreditations like these is really to help alignment across the industry, which is really, really useful. I think as more participants become CEIV accredited, that just helps us as an industry to be better aligned in terms of delivering solutions to our customers. And, frankly, that's needed in this space. There are still players out there that have really nice brochures, but unfortunately very little behind the scenes as far as movement is concerned.
Yeah, no, I think that's a valid very valid point. The more consistent and the more transparent, the better. Now, as far as tracking, and people are also quite rightly saying, as part of the supply chain, you know, you can be very, very good in one part, then you can be good in another phase, then you can be good in another section. But how does the overall responsibility of the supply chain come together? Have you got any thoughts on that, Milton?
Yeah,
go on, guys. Don't be too polite now. Just jump in whenever everyone wants it. Go on, Milton. Go on.
Oh no, I was going to say, look, it comes down to the collaborative effort across the supply chain. I think that this is one initiative where everybody needs to be collaborative. We know that there's going to be challenges with transparency. From the airport's perspective, we know that most of the temperature excursions happen on the tarmac, right? So the way to address some of these serious concerns in the distribution of vaccine is to work in collaboration with everybody. For us at the airport is, again, like I mentioned before, is working with CBP and federal agencies to make sure that we can eliminate any unnecessary holes and delays, because time and efficiency is everything for this. So we see this as everybody, if we put the people first and the patient first, we see this as responsibility for everybody.
Yeah, no, very good. And Roger, you were about to say?
Yeah, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. I think that focus on collaboration is so important. You know, at American specifically, we've rolled out a brand new IT platform in the last 12 months, and that actually gives us enhanced tracking capabilities, increased visibility across our entire network for every shipment, both internally and also externally. And then there are things that we're doing to help elevate that visibility, things like use of a high visibility website, which our operations team uses every day to track sensitive shipments. We've got a 24/7 customer care team that we use to monitor sensitive shipments like these. And then, you know, use of tracking and logging devices. There are a number across the industry. I think we've approved 38. We've got several more that are still in the final stages of approval. So, you know, really trying to create an environment where we're providing visibility, but also sharing information very freely with other participants.
No, excellent, excellent. Now, can I ask you something else? And I'd like to focus this one to you, Christelle, please. The security on the vaccines. I mean, it's going to be a key factor. Because it's you know, it's going to be such a valuable commodity, and I'm sure irrespective of the correct initial distribution, there's going to be certain elements that would love to get their hands on any of the vaccines. What sort of special care and attention is being applied now with regards to the security?
FedEx Express has been working in the US very closely with the Department of Health and Human Services, as well as the Department of Defense as part of Operation Warp Speed. We are also working very closely with the manufacturers that are our customers. So, you know, the military is somehow involved in the overall management of the vaccine distribution, and they are certainly looking very closely at our security measures. But you will understand that security is something we do not want to necessarily disclose here.
No, of course.
But we feel like, yes, we are ready. We have looked at our security measures very closely, and we have some outside eyes, in particular the military, also involved in the overall Operation Warp Speed.
Yeah, no, beautiful. I think it's just important that, you know, everybody that's got an interest and a concern, and it's going to gain more interest as time goes on, you know, that people realize that there's a huge focus on security. And Roger, I'm sure you'd endorse that as well.
Yeah, completely. Completely. I mean, look, as an industry, I think we've got some really great processes and systems already in place, right? If you look at security at facilities, security on the ramp, you know, at American and look, in common across the industry, we have stringent hiring processes, and we'll adapt to any other requirements that are presented to us through this initiative.
Yeah, no, brilliant. And Milton.
Yeah, Chris, I just wanted to riff off what Christelle was saying in terms of security. We just had a meeting earlier this week with our CBP officials, the cargo chief and the chief of enforcement. And in light of the news of the two COVID vaccines that are going to be coming out soon, they're going to up the scrutiny on ancillary shipments as well. You know, syringes and
Yep.
and needles and things like that, because they're going to be looking for a lot of counterfeit items. So I think across the board, you'll see an increased scrutiny from CBP officials. They'll be scrutinizing everything very, very carefully because they are concerned about counterfeit kits and things of that nature, as well as counterfeit vaccines. So yes, that's very important.
Isn't it a terrible thing? You know, that the world goes through a big block like this, and then all of a sudden, you know, there's some good, and yet there's still, you know, people having to overlook and oversee all these terrible things that people are still willing to do. It's such a shame, huh?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, it's a terrible, terrible thing. Now, Christelle, with regards to the training and people's awareness, are you doing anything special with your teams?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, FedEx Express has been working on the vaccine distribution for many months. We have had many internal meetings with key stakeholders to really make sure everyone understands what's happening, is fully prepared, and also makes decisions very quickly. So we have clarified, obviously, what is needed from operational employees. They have been briefed. We have been auditing them, you know, and we feel like, yes, everybody is on board, and we have been very successful at doing some test shipments in our network so far.
Okay, very good. And Milton?
Yeah, so we've been having a weekly conference call with our cargo community here at DFW to give them updates on everything from COVID cases regionally and locally to CBP. CBP participates on the call as well. So like I was just mentioning, that they were advising the community that they're going to scrutinize everything very carefully to root out any type of counterfeit items. So we have these weekly calls, these weekly update calls. We want to make sure that everybody across the community is well informed. As I mentioned before, we don't run a cargo business, but we just want to guide the community and lead them to give the best performance they can and to be prepared. So it's about the preparedness for our community and supporting all the stakeholders across the ecosystem.
No, brilliant. And Roger, just back to you with regards to the difference between the two vaccines that are hitting the press at the moment. One obviously requiring, special refrigeration and temperature controls, and the other one a little bit more normal. What do you think with regards to that? How are you dealing with that?
Yeah, well, one certainly is more normal. I think we're hearing that the Moderna vaccine is going to be transported in temperature ranges that are much more typical with some of the other products that we move. And so, our existing processes, infrastructure, I think, is well set up to manage that particular movement. As far as Pfizer is concerned, and that's the vaccine that requires cooling down to minus 80 degrees Celsius. Pfizer are manufacturing packaging themselves to support maintaining that temperature, protecting the efficacy of the product for a fairly substantial period of time during the transfer process. So we're actually working with logistics providers who are involved in the transportation of Pfizer shipments right now to determine that we have the right processes in place to support any needs that they have related to the movement of that vaccine. And really, that's something that's going to be common across this whole effort, Chris. We've got really well-established processes. We move vaccines, all the time across our network. As new and more specific requirements emerge related to individual vaccines, then we'll work through adapting those processes, with the manufacturers and with the logistics companies involved to ensure that we've got a robust plan in place.
Okay, brilliant. And Roger, just on that, obviously with your GHAs, if you're doing any further distribution, etc., I'm pretty sure, knowing American and yourself, that you're also doing regular updates, regular verification and validating their capability and their procedures, etc., so that it all pans out and links in nicely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that validation process is just part of our ongoing partnership with our GHAs. We've got coolers, refrigeration facilities in all of our key locations around our network. Although I'd stress, of course, that our goal here is really upon speed and implementing processes that protect the efficacy of products moving through the network. So really our role is to move products as quickly as possible, and hopefully that involves movement through the airport as quickly as possible as well. So ultimately, little need for long-term storage at the airport, hopefully as we move vaccines through our network, through our ground handlers, onto the final distributors or logistics providers.
Yeah, no, exactly. Now, obviously, Christelle, it's a little bit of a different scenario for yourself, but for Roger, for most of the carrier side of the industry, with the reduction in capacity now due to passenger aircraft, there's still going to be an offset demand when all of this vaccines, just like the PPE, comes along. What's going to happen with everything else? Now, your business has obviously seen a huge surge, and how are you preparing yourself now for any offset or different types of cargo that might have to come your way because you've got the capacity?
Well, you hear a lot in the press about the millions of doses of vaccines that will be coming, but I think at times the journalists do not understand that, let's say, 20 million doses of vaccine do not generate 20 million packages. Right? As a matter of fact, when you look at the public documents that were released in the US by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, you can make estimates on the number of parcels that you should be receiving. So let's say if you have 20 million doses coming in your system, this actually translates into 200,000 shipments when you look at the 5 vaccine candidates selected by Operation Warp Speed, except Pfizer. Pfizer has a different type of configuration. They are not using 100 doses per parcel, but in their case, they have either 1,000 or 5,000 doses per parcel. And when you look at this, you come up with a figure of less than 20,000 parcels for 20 million doses. So, the volumes that you are expecting out there can be really already forecasted, and you can build this up into your capacity and make sure that you have the right aircraft on the right transportation lanes.
Okay.
So something that we may not have mentioned until now is that Pfizer is using dry ice within the packaging material, and the airlines are limited by the amount of dry ice that they can carry on board. So we have to be extremely careful as to which aircraft, for instance, we are going to place on a particular lane. Exactly.
Christelle, you made it sound so very clear there. I've got a great deal of confidence now. That was really, really well done. I appreciate that. Now, Milton, from your perspective, and you've seen the way passenger aircraft have become Praetors, and the types of flexibility that's required, and the speed that EASA and ICAO and everybody else has given out new procedures and everything. From an airport perspective, with slots, with stands, etc., are you also doing anything differently to make sure that as soon as the aircraft comes on the right stand and the flexibility is there?
Yeah, we're pretty fortunate and blessed in the sense that we have a lot of capacity at our airport with 7 runways and a big cargo area. We have plenty aircraft parking positions, and we have just a lot of capacity. So we haven't seen any major impacts to our operation. I think our efficiency and flow is as good as it ever was. We have seen, of course, when you're talking about belly capacity at our airport was about 25% of our total cargo volume. And we lost a great deal of that, but we've made it up with a lot of charters from American Airlines and others. But in terms of airfield efficiency, we have a lot of capacity, and we haven't been really adversely impacted from an operational standpoint.
Yeah, that was just an opportunity. It must be like somebody saying, how good do you look? And you can say what you like. To have 7 runways, what an absolute, that's incredible, huh?
Yes, yeah. Like I said, we're quite blessed. You know, we're very fortunate for that. But then, again, we just have a lot of capacity on the airfield, and a very good, efficient operations team as well. So there's been no impacts, and we can take on more capacity.
Very good, very good. So that's a good tick box for Dallas, huh? Let me just ask each of you now just something, okay? Now, if and obviously everybody's seeing how quickly things change. So from doom and gloom 2 weeks ago, now we get one good bit of news, then we get another good bit of news. It seems that every Monday now something good's going to happen. So there's a lot of anticipation as to what's going to come out next Monday. But now, if each one of you was in the driving seat and you could do something for the supply chain, the community, our community, if you were given the chance to introduce a few things, what would you like to see happen now that would be for the benefit of everybody? Who'd like to go first? And that's with the understanding that they're very dynamic, they're changing. Like you say, people don't know where the hubs are going to be, when it's going to start rolling out, you know, how it's going to be distributed. So with all of those variables in place, from your perspectives now, what would you like to see, you know, if you had the chance to wave a magic wand and come up with some big announcements on Monday? So who'd like to start?
Look, well, I'll tee it off. I'll tee it off, Chris. And look, I think you've just summed up some of the challenges in that question, right? There are unknowns. There are lots of different requirements. You've got lots of different organizations involved, from government to to regulatory to free market. I think from our perspective, it's having that open flow of information. You know, historically, there are too many instances where players within the supply chain keep cards close to their chest, don't actually share all of the information as it's available. And that makes it very, very difficult to plan. And so, you know, for us, from Americans' perspective, the more information that we can get ahead of time, the more notice we can get. You know, if we need to do anything from a network perspective or from a structural perspective, for example, the more notice that we can get, the better it is for us, and the more able we're going to be able to meet the needs of customers, both, you know, in terms of manufacturers, other parties across the supply chain, and ultimately end users.
No, good. Yep. Anything else? Sorry, anything else, Roger? Don't want to cut you short there with one.
No, I mean, it's all encompassing, I know, but it really, and we've talked about it, we've highlighted it in a couple of questions so far, but really, you know, that visibility, that open communication, and working together across the industry is going to be critically important. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Milton?
Yeah, I agree with Roger. I think he's spot on, and I was going to go in that same direction in response. One thing, as an airport, as you know, pharmaceutical companies are not knocking on our door saying, "Hey, what is the airport doing?" They're looking at their, big global freight forwarders, the airlines, et cetera. We're farther on down the list. But to Roger's point, I think that if I could wave this magic wand, for example, it'd be information sharing and transparency across the entire supply chain, right? So one step we've taken in that direction is we implemented this year, probably the worst time in history to implement something during a pandemic, but we implemented this year a cloud-based data sharing platform, so that everything can be shared across the supply chain, across all the partners and the stakeholders in the supply chain. You can share data electronically. And I think this transparency that Roger was alluding to and the sharing information is critical as we move forward. Since the discussion about Operation Warp Speed and global distribution of the vaccine came up, for us as an airport, there's been more questions than answers. And there's still a lot of questions out there that have been unanswered and we just don't know about. But some entities may have some information. And again, if we can share this, we can all increase our readiness to have a more efficient and to Roger's point, speedy distribution of the vaccine. So information sharing, you know, this cloud-based platform like we have adopted, so we can be a participant in that and share information. I think that would be a good first step.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. That's how we're all going to get out of this, is by being more close together. And Christelle?
Yeah, I would say there is no tolerance for failure in this case. And at FedEx Express, we actually make the best out of it. I think, you know, the crisis is a catalyst for positive change within our organization. So we were able to launch technological solutions ahead of the original planned launch date. For instance, we just launched SensorWare ID, that is a Bluetooth low energy tracking device that provides the location every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And we also team with Microsoft for Surround, that is a cloud platform for data analytics. So yes, you know, we accelerate a lot of changes with the pandemic and make sure that we are not going to be the ones in the news, you know, whenever there is something bad happening.
Yeah, and I think you've hit the nail on the head, because the way society is, people will be interested now in the first failure, so they can jump on it and then put people under pressure, which is making people very nervous about opening up and saying what they're doing. But something you just said there, Christelle, so many parts of our wonderful industry have got so much technological advances. They've got initiatives. They've done well with digitization, etc. If you could put all of that into almost like a supermarket, and you could pick and mix and see what was on the shelves, it would be a wonderful array of advancement. And I think that's one thing that is a shame, is that people sometimes recreate something that's already good enough, and it should be shared. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I am part of the specialty services team of FedEx Express, and on our side, you know, we have updated recently our technical playbook of global capabilities to make sure that we have documented everything regarding visibility, monitoring, intervention, and cold chain contingency measures. While doing that, we constantly update our key contacts, because technology is great, but you also need the employees on the ground, on the tarmac, who will be able to react whenever something happens. So we have to ensure that our stations, our ramps, are properly staffed. When it comes to the Pfizer vaccines, for instance, it's considered a dangerous good. So you need to have employees certified to actually handle that shipment. Yeah. And we have to make sure on our side that we have the workforce that is also there, not only the technology. You know, technology without people, it's not going to really necessarily bring success. So yeah, we have been paying a lot of attention to our workforce as well at FedEx Express.
Okay, very good. And on that, and with the fact that, you know, for all of us, you know, the thing that makes things happen is our people, and the way they're trained and the way they're supported is so important. So, you know, can I ask now, with, you know, such focus on people's stresses and pressures, with being laid off, you know, with furlough, with all the different combinations, and worrying about their families, whether they got a job, what's happening with childcare, etc. All those anxieties are causing a different element now with regards to human factors and SMS. Roger, are you guys doing anything, you know, specifically focused on supporting people in leading in a different way?
Yeah, we really are, Chris. Thanks for asking that question, because I think it really is front and center of people's minds. I mean, this year has been so challenging, you know, for everybody, you know, especially for our teams. Look, I think a couple of things I'll say. Firstly, you know, the year itself, as difficult as it has been, you know, we still need to hold on to the fact that there are positives that have come out of this, yeah, right? I think, you know, I think about some of the things that we've done. Christelle, you just mentioned that this environment has provided a catalyst for change, right? It's actually driven some positive progression within your organization. You know, we would speak to the same. There are things that we've rolled out, things that we've done that would have taken in ordinary circumstances much longer to have brought to fruition than have been the case this year. And I think we need to hold on to positive things like this to remind ourselves that as difficult as things are, as difficult as they have been, there are still reasons to feel positive. I look around and I see the way that our entire team, we've created some new structures as part of some organizational change that's taking place at American Airlines. And so cargo has been coupled with the new organization, Airport Excellence team, and Jessica Tyler leads the Cargo and Airport Excellence team. I look at the way in which that team is supporting different groups within the organization as a whole, and the sense of worth and positivity that people get as a result of that support. And then I think, some of the softer things that we've been doing to try and support people, whether it's flexibility, the ability to work from home, providing an environment where people can feel safe coming into the workplace. So all of those things, together, individually may not amount to a whole lot. I think collectively actually do begin to amount to something that's fairly significant. We just have to be continually mindful of the stresses that our teams are under, at the current time.
Yeah, no, exactly. And Milton, from your perspective?
Yes, from the initial outbreak of the pandemic, the airport assembled a readiness task force team, and they've done a wonderful job of addressing all the concerns with people. So at the core of this task force is the safety and well-being of our customers, our employees, and they've done a magnificent job from creating a pandemic preparedness plan. We're the first airport in the world to have the GBAC certification. So they, in a lot of flexibility has been offered and provided to our staff from working from home. We're a large airport that has to keep operating daily, but we've done a good job of being flexible for those who can work at home to continue to work at home, and safeguarding all our employees, all to keep morale up. And DFW, like other airports, we've also have not sat on our hands. We've also been trying to, as much as possible, take this opportunity. Like Roger said, there's opportunities in everything to increase our infrastructure. We've done a lot of infrastructure improvements across the airfield, bridges, runways, taxiways. So we've taken that time to make those improvements now that we're a little down compared to our normal operation. So I think overall the airport has done a wonderful job, and I think our CEO Sean Donahue and the leadership team have done a good job of keeping morale up under these circumstances. And I think we're positioned to, we're one of the busiest airports in the U.S., and I think we're positioned to continue to recover and get stronger.
No, good. And I think even though everybody's focusing on the vaccines now and they see it as an end game, everybody in our industry and the three of you and all of your teams and your colleagues, they're having to do it day in, day out. So, I think it's a big recognition and respect and applause to all of those guys, girls who come in every single day and they do it, and they put themselves on the front line. They make sure everything keeps going and rolling and flying and moving. It's an incredible thing that they do. So, I think it's amazing. Now,
absolutely, Chris.
Yeah, and I think what you've all said is fully endorsable, which is, I know in the 40 years I've been in this industry, sometimes you look back on a decade and you think to yourself, oh my God, we still look at the paperwork, and you think to yourself, why on earth are we not getting rid of paperwork, etc. But I think when people look back on 2020, they'll see almost a decade's worth of change and advancement and benefit, in this 1 year. And I think everybody will look back with an awful lot of pride as to what's been achieved. And please God, guys, we get out of this as soon as possible. Thank you all so much. I know you've got a dash, Milton. You've got another important meeting to go to. Christelle, thank you so much. And I love the title. I'd love to talk to you more about being a technical fellow specialty services. I love that title. And Roger, nice to speak with you again, and take care, and give my regards to Jessica. And all of you, really, really appreciate your time with us. Thank you so, so much for everything that you're doing.
Thank you, Chris.
Super.
Thank you for the
Thank you,
opportunity
Chris.
to speak to you today.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.